Welcome back to the CSP Elite Baseball Development Podcast. I'm your host, Eric Cressey, and this is another edition of Pinch Hit Friday. In this installment, I want to talk to you about the difference between a training max and a competition max. And in order to illustrate this, I'm actually going to tell you the story of my first powerlifting meet. It was all the way back in 2004. I was competing at 165 pounds. I had never deadlifted more than 460 pounds in training. That was a grinder of a max that took place during a training session. Then I went through an entire powerlifting training cycle with appropriate fluctuations of volume and intensity, deloaded going into the meet, and then went and deadlifted 510 in that first meet on a third attempt. So it was an 11% increase over anything I had ever done at the gym. It was at the end of the long day of powerlifting as well. And what it did was it taught me a lot about the difference between a training max and a competition max. In other words, just because we can do something in an actual competitive environment doesn't mean that we're necessarily able to tap into that in just a training dynamic. And if you look at most high-level power lifters, Olympic lifters, they're going to base a lot of their training percentages on, their best number in training, not just what they're able to do in competition. And so this is a big learning curve. Obviously, there's a deload period that played into that as well. There's the arousal of having, spectators in the stand, people cheering for you, lots of caffeine, all those different things that contribute to it. But I think it's important to apply this to baseball. And, if you think about it, there's actually a ton of pitchers, in particular veteran big leaguers, who really can't hit big velocity numbers in bullpens. You'll see guys that can't even hit 90 that then go to spring training and all of a sudden it's 94, then they get into a real major league game and it's 97. So they just can't tap into that competition max until there are lots of people in the stands. And I actually think that's a good thing. It creates kind of this graduated exposure to stress over the course of time. And really what I think this is a really important discussion for in the context of the baseball world is that we should be really careful about trying to turn training sessions into competition maxes. I always say training is where you build capacity more than you test maxes. And I think we're in an era right now where everyone is always trying to chase PRs and things like that. When in reality, I think we as a whole in the industry could benefit from taking a step back and work a little bit more on building capacity. I'm not saying we shouldn't seek, semi-linear improvements, particularly at younger ages. But with our more veteran arms and our younger arms that maybe aren't veteran but have a lot of arm speed, we probably need to spend a lot more time working off of training maxes as opposed to just setting new competitive maxes. So what are some big mistakes that I see in this regard? Well, one is for sure is getting way too many eyes on somebody during bullpens. Like one of the worst things you can do with a high level pitching prospect is invite a bunch of scouts to, come and watch, a bullpen, which is all about working on things, optimizing pitch mix, sequencing, mechanics, all these different things. If you throw a bunch of eyes, radar guns, too much tech on somebody, all of a sudden that training max becomes more of a competition max. But what I think is really, really important in this discussion and the thing that's overlooked the most is you always have to remember that a competition max will take a lot more out of you. So as an example, we were planning out the throwing program for one of our high-level high school kids who's Division I commit and getting a lot of attention, throwing in the mid 90s. And it's a northern kid who's going down south, and he's going to pitch in warm weather, go about 3 innings in his first outing down there after an appropriate build. But when you're a northern kid, it's really hard to throw a lot of live BPs. So you go down south and you get into these competitive environments, and that's instantly going to become a big competition max. So when I was speaking with Blaze Martinez, our pitching coach in Massachusetts, one of the things I emphasized to him is, hey, allow for extra recovery on the tail end of that. That's going to be a super stressful event. I guarantee he's going to be crazy sore the next day if he threw against good competition in front of a bunch of scouts in warm weather. That's a true competition max when he's been indoors on a turf mound with a lot more training, not even maxes, sub-maximal stuff. So you can build pitch count, you can build the number of ups and all that stuff, but you're never really going to know what that competition max is until you get into competition. So what do we look at? Well, just recognize that's going to take a lot out of him. And the next time out isn't going to be a big jump in workload. It may just be a flat line. It may even be a subtle reduction because you want to give him every opportunity to bounce back from that stressful event. Where I see people get into a lot of trouble is they try to stack competition max on competition max on top competition max, particularly in younger athletes. What we actually should be doing is taking those high stress interactions and staggering them with more lower stress opportunities to build capacities. That's why you throw bullpens between starts instead of trying to PR on the mound, just between starts in your side sessions. So big takeaway, if you look at elite powerlifters, they're all very banged up after competition. Their joints ache, they're lethargic. The last thing they want to do is lift heavy weights. They just want to lightly move around and recharge. So we need to create some of that same dynamic on maybe a more of a micro scale with our young throwers. So always appreciate in training that there are training max and competition maxes. They're very different, and you got to be careful about how many of those competition maxes you push into the annual calendar. If they're going to be there, you got to allow for a little bit more recovery on the tail end so that people can come back and display the actual fitness that they have. Thanks for listening, and have a great weekend. This episode is brought to you by First Form, an awesome supplement company with a comprehensive product offering that I enjoy using myself and with our athletes. Beyond the broad product line they offer, I also love First Form's commitment to ensuring that their products are the highest quality. They meet NSF certified for sport standards for both consistency and purity. Their Formula One protein powder is the best tasting option I've had in over 20 years in the fitness industry, and they've got several great flavors to choose from. I also lean on their creatine monohydrate to support hard training, their collagen for joint health, their magnesium to help with sleep quality, and their fish oil for a variety of health benefits. Our daughters and I also share a love for their high-protein meat sticks, which have become a big hit in the Cressey household for school lunches and on-the-go protein options as we head to gymnastics and softball practices. Of course, First Form products also have been really popular with our athletes at Cressey Sports Performance, and they're used by some of the top performing athletes and most recognizable sports franchises in the world. Above all, the people at First Form are top notch, and that's a rarity in an often unethical business. First Form is dedicated to empowering people on their fitness journeys, and that dedication is matched by only their unwavering commitment to exceptional quality and unparalleled customer service. Check them out for yourself at www.firstform.com/Cressey. That's 1stphom.com/CRESSEY and get free shipping on your order of $75 or more. Additionally, they're offering amazing 10% more than your money back guarantee if you're not fully satisfied with your purchase. Again, that's firstform.com/Cressey to get free shipping on your order of $75 or more.